Good evening and welcome to our third annual 3MT competition. I think whenever I speak at events like this, it's important to say these things because to Rob's point, having a graduate college here at Coastal is new. And as the founding dean, I think it's important that people understand the role of the graduate college. And that is to define and support excellence in graduate education and the research and scholarly activity associated with it. We establish and articulate a standard for intellectual excellence that pervades all discussions and decisions about faculty, students, curriculum, and research direction. I love that word, pervasive, because that means we must, right? When you think about Coastal Carolina University and you think about 11,000 plus students, well, less than 1,000 are graduate students. So in order for your voice to be heard, it is the responsibility of the graduate college to assume that happens. I'm reminded when I started in 2021, when President Benson, and he just left, but when he began his tenure, he established the 3 R's, reach, rigor, and reputation. The 3MT competition that will take place today fully supports the 3 R's. The competition is causing our students to reach beyond themselves, to push and set themselves apart from the ordinary graduate students. We have hundreds of graduate students, but there's only a few here today. Rigor is defined as the quality of being extremely thorough, exhaustive, or accurate. I am certain our participants' scholarly work will display a level of rigor far beyond the average student. And reputation. Each year, the quality of our winner has improved and garnered the respect of the larger research-intensive universities at the regional competitions. In fact, we believe we lost last year because the regional competition was held in the upstate, and there was a little home cooking involved with that competition. So to our presenters, I wish you good luck, and to our audience, welcome to the 3MT competition. Thank you.
Well, I wrote a lot of things down too, so I must be up there in age as well. So just wanted to share a little bit of information about what 3MT is for those of you who may not know about it. It is a competition in which graduate students present their thesis in 3 minutes or less. I can't even, I'm trying to think about what my 300-page dissertation would look like in 3 minutes, and I can't even think about that, but you all are able to do that, and I'm so impressed. So looking forward to listening to your presentations today. In this, with the 3 minutes, this presentation or this event was actually started in Queensland, in the University of Queensland in Australia, and has taken off. Right. Now we have like 900 universities in over 85 countries worldwide that are actually doing this presentation. So our first presenter is Chris, Zion, Divens. They will be presenting Pursuing Progress in a Climate of Fear, Nonbinary Teachers in South Carolina. Their faculty advisor is Dr. Anthony Setari.
Education in the United States is an institution founded upon systemic inequality and exclusion. While progress has been made, there are groups of people who are still not fully included in our K-12 schools. One of these groups of people is trans and non-binary people. In recent years, there has been a wave of anti-trans panic about the supposed dangers of trans people in education and other parts of society. Waves of anti-trans panic have followed. In South Carolina, in the year 2024, 37 anti-trans bills were proposed seeking to build upon existing anti-trans legislation targeting students in sports, pronoun usage, diverse literature, and so on. Trans and non-binary people have existed and will continue to exist in schools. These are human beings who deserve respect and equitable treatment as students, teachers, and other school community members. As a non-binary teacher myself, I am profoundly aware of the systemic inequality, lacking consideration, and anti-trans climate that permeates in education, especially in the southeastern United States. To learn more about and develop solutions to these issues, I have been conducting research with non-binary teachers in South Carolina into the attributes, experiences, and perceptions of these teachers. I have been utilizing a qualitative, critically informed case study, utilizing interviews and policy analysis in order to learn more about these teachers. I have found that these teachers exist in a climate of fear where they feel threatened by hate groups such as Moms for Liberty, anti-trans legislators working to criminalize and take away their civil rights, as well as other anti-trans individuals. These teachers are sometimes out in their places of work, sometimes they are not, but they experience discrimination regardless. These teachers are feeling pushed out of the field in a time where we have a critical teacher shortage as they feel unsafe, their mental health is at risk, and that their overall safety is at risk as well. This also poses problems for other individuals, including their students and colleagues. These individuals benefit from non-binary teachers who are able to provide unique perspectives, funds of knowledge, and cultural enrichment that would otherwise go untapped. I've also helped to encounter counter-narratives about how these individuals have been receiving support and affirmation as they engage in transformative practices to try and innovate with their curricula by making their lessons and instruction materials more inclusive and scientifically accurate. These individuals deserve better treatment as non-binary and transgender people are only going to increase in number as younger generations become increasingly aware and accepting of the LGBTQ+ community. Diversity is an asset that should serve to uplift our schools, and we should not take away from the ability of all members of society to take part in education to the best of their ability. We must continue to pursue progress and justice for marginalized people in South Carolina and beyond. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Amanda Eisele, and she'll be presenting Leaving It Better Than They Found It, Alumni Outcomes of the Fraternity Experience. And our faculty advisor is Dr. Sheena Kauppila.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Eisele, and I am a PhD candidate in the Education Sciences program here at Coastal Carolina University. When I say the word fraternity, what do you imagine? Do you picture a wild party filled with kegs and red Solo cups? Do you envision the Adopt a Highway sign you pass along 544? Maybe you think of men wearing suits sitting in a chapter meeting. Quite possibly, many of you think of one of the movies up here on the screen, particularly the 1978 classic Animal House. We all have a different picture of what defines the word fraternity and the outcomes we associate with those who are members. But how do our alumni members, those who have graduated from an organization, define the outcomes of their experience related to social, intellectual, mental, physical, spiritual, and political development? This research seeks to understand just that, the self-reported outcomes of fraternity alumni from a campus in the United States. As of 2019, there are more than 750,000 undergraduate members and over 9 million living alumni associated with a Greek letter organization. Gallup's 2021 research found that 84% of fraternity alumni said if given the opportunity, they would do it all over again. Much of the research, though, related to fraternity outcomes dates back to the late 1990s or early 2000s. And as we know, Generation Z is doing college differently. So it's important to understand if the outcomes of the late 1990s remain relevant today over 20 years later. Through qualitative narrative research, I'm diving into the stories of initiated fraternity alumni who have graduated within the last 5 years. Starting with an introductory survey where they tell about their membership experience, their joining process, positions held, then going into semi-structured interviews where they're able to openly share the stories that have shaped their experience. Some initial outcomes that we're finding through this research include 4 emerging themes of balance, values congruence, socialization, and physical presentation, with all participants saying they would repeat their membership experience and that it had profoundly changed their life. Through this research, we are able to look at the college campus environment and the fraternity and sorority professionals at both a campus and headquarters space and how they can better position undergraduate members to tell their story and to shape the story of the fraternity experience. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Zachary Weinstein, and he'll be presenting the influence of smartphone usage on students' academic performance, sense of belonging, and self-efficacy. The faculty advisor is Dr. Debbie Connor.
Okay, fantastic. I appreciate you all joining me for this presentation today. I want to walk you all through each of your own little individual journeys here concerning my research on the influence of smartphone usage. I want every single one of you to take out your phones from your pockets and place it in your hand. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to click into the settings, perhaps, of your iPhone, and I want you to click on the icon that says Screen Time. When you click into Screen Time, you're going to click See All App and Website Activity. You should see a beautiful little bar graph that shows, wow, I've really spent quite a lot of time on this cellular device. And you're going to swipe right on that bar graph, and it's going to show up last week's data. I'm waiting to see some of those eyeballs out there. You could share with a neighbor if you would like. Now, think about your own time and think about the influence of that device on your life inside of school perhaps, and maybe even your life outside of school. Now think, how does this influence our first-time freshmen in college across our colleges and universities in America? And so with my dissertation research, I'm looking at the influence of student smartphone usage on three things: their GPA, so their grade point average, their self-efficacy, how capable they feel about continuing and committing to their college education, in addition to their sense of belonging, a huge gap in the research on students' smartphone usage. So I'm in the middle of my dissertation research, and I've accumulated about 200-something students' worth of objective screen time data, the stuff you just looked at on your cellular devices. And with these students, from the survey research that I've committed to, I've collected screenshots, and I've collected multiple surveys that I intend to use multiple linear regression to see. Then you can look back on your phone. If student smartphone usage goes up, does their GPA go down? Or maybe it goes up. If student smartphone usage goes up, does their self-efficacy go up or down? If student smartphone usage goes up, does their sense of belonging go up or down? And so what are the implications of this? The implications are we really don't know. We're instituting cell phone bans left. We're instituting them right. Horry County, the state of South Carolina, communities you are very well a part of are instituting very much bans when we don't really know the consequences of that device that we're committing to. Many students, from the data that I've already looked at, are committing perhaps a full workday that you or I might spend in our full-time job onto these cellular devices. And I want you to think back to this. What is the influence of this on our first-time, full-time freshmen? Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and that you think about this when you sit at home with your family at dinner tonight. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Saneywongse Lamar, and Saneywongse will be presenting Healthcare Administration within Free Medical Clinics and the Impacts on the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Their faculty advisor is Dr. Pamela Martin.
Hi, my name is Saneywongse Lamar, and I'm in the Master of Business Administration program. I'm here today to talk about the importance of healthcare on sustainability, but more specifically, the impacts that free medical clinics have on our community and the Sustainable Development Goals. I did an internship as part of the United Nations Youth Corps Georgetown RISE program at Smith Medical Clinic, which is a nonprofit free medical clinic located in Pawleys Island and Georgetown, South Carolina, and they treat uninsured low-income individuals in Georgetown County. Free medical clinics often go overlooked at the work that they do, as they provide direct medical care to the local citizens of our community. You might not notice a lot of people and the healthcare that they have because that's pretty private information, but one main thing that all of the people who come to free clinics have is that they all are getting the same care that any of us are welcome to when we have our own health insurance, but they fall below the poverty line or they are uninsured. So oftentimes, a lot of these individuals seek out these free medical clinics, and it's so important to have those local and in our community. There are over 40 free medical clinics in the state of South Carolina and over 1,400 in the United States. These free clinics are such a valuable asset, as these community members who go to those clinics might be someone you see every day in the grocery store who's scanning your groceries. They might be individuals that you hire to do your electricity or fix your refrigerator. These individuals are local in our community, and it's so important to bring the values that free medical clinics have into our everyday lives. Free medical clinics stand on a foundation of Goal 3, good health and well-being, as their whole goal is to impact those around us. Within Smith Medical Clinic, they have mental health counseling, physical therapy, gynecological services, basic essential needs that every individual should have access to. They also help Goal 2 at Smith Medical Clinic with Zero Hunger. Smith Medical Clinic's location in Pawleys Island has a food pantry, which is accessible to all who come into the clinic, but just to anybody else in Pawleys Island as well. Food should be a necessity, and a lot of the individuals who are seen at free clinics don't put that as a priority, as they don't also put their health as a priority because they feel like they don't have access to things like people who have insurance do. Goal 4 is quality education, and that is so crucial in medical clinics, as all of the doctors, nurses, volunteers who are working at those clinics, their whole goal is to provide quality education to patients who are being seen, to let them know that they need to keep on top of their health, but also just stay on track with getting checkups and things like that. The percentages that I have up here are so important, as the people who fall within those percentages are so important in getting those care, as they are local community members, and that's why healthcare is so important in our communities. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Brittany Horn. Brittany will be presenting Teens and Technology, is social media use affecting student involvement in schools? Their faculty advisor is Dr. Alex Herring.
Hi, my name is Brittany Horn, and I am currently a 6th-year teacher for Horry County Schools. And when I reflect on my time that I've spent so far in the county, I'm always amazed to see how vastly different the schools within the county are from each other, even in some cases where they're only a few miles apart. One of these examples is I taught at a school for a few years and I loved my time there, but they had a very relaxed cell phone policy. Students were allowed on their phones before school, after school, and even during lunch and recess. And it became the norm to see during these times students, in some cases, isolating themselves from their peers to be on their devices. And the kicker for me was always seeing students, groups of girls banding together to record and dance and making TikTok videos. Fast forward to a new school where the cell phone policy was the exact opposite. In fact, students were never allowed on their phones. They had to be shut off and out of sight. The first week, I was very shocked and surprised to see that not only were students compliant, but they were just being kids. They were running around and playing sports, and it was such a breath of fresh air to see. Now, while I do believe it would be naive to assume that the differences in these two schools only boil down to the cell phone policy, it does bring some rather valid questions to the table. Namely, how much of an impact do screens and social media have on our youth? Prior research already shows that excessive screen time can impact negatively academic performance, social, emotional, even physical health. But where there is a gap in the research is whether or not screens are affecting student involvement. That is, students' willingness to participate in after-school activities, sports, clubs. I conducted a study to get to the bottom of this question, and what I learned was that there was a significant relationship between student screen time and student involvement. I interviewed students and also looked at their screen time app and discovered that students who spent much more time than their peers on their phones were less likely to be involved in after-school activities. I also found something interesting, which was that any student that I interviewed that had TikTok at all had 0 student involvement. Now, I do believe this is a very tip of the iceberg research done on a very minor scale. I do think that more research needs to be done. to better understand this problem that we're seeing with teens. But I do think as parents and as educators, we have a responsibility to get to the bottom of the question, because ultimately our job is to help our teens reach their full potential, not just with themselves, but their peers and their schools. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Howie. Lily will be presenting Before the Next Flood, Constructing a Narrative of Flood Preparation and Recovery in Marion County, South Carolina. Their faculty advisor is Dr. Thomas Mulliken.
When a hurricane drops over 17 inches of rain in one day, all that water has to go somewhere. In October 2016, residents of Marion County, South Carolina, just 40 miles inland from Myrtle Beach, woke up in the middle of the night to find water coming into their homes. Hurricane Matthew was considered a 1,000-year flood event. It destroyed entire communities, and when the water finally receded, financial aid was locked behind bureaucratic red tape, making the situation even worse for a county with a quarter of its population living in poverty. But the human spirit is not so easily broken. Nichols, South Carolina was completely destroyed, but the town erected a sign declaring their dedication to rebuilding from this once-in-a-millennia disaster. This picture behind me is of that very sign in 2018, after Hurricane Florence broke Hurricane Matthew's flood records. Interested in flood prevention, I did some survey work in Marion County after Florence, but the stakeholder side left us with more questions than answers. To have effective community involvement, there needed to be an in-depth qualitative study done in the area. Now, my bachelor's is in geology. I am not a social scientist. But nowadays, you could say that every climate scientist is also a political scientist. So thus began my social science journey. Now, social science gets a bad rap in natural science circles, and I can see where the misunderstanding comes from. Studies like mine involve interviewing usually 20 to 30 people. Now, 30 pieces of data is not statistically significant, but seeing each participant as one piece of data ignores the fact that every human being is a rich ecosystem of experiences. Just like I have sampled sediment cores as a geologist, I sample these interviews for words, phrases that explain, that I can code and then analyze. And in my preliminary data that I've analyzed so far, it's produced nearly 100 of these per interview. So now 20 to 30 data points becomes 2,000 to 3,000. Now we are talking research. But what do I do with it? Well, I publish, obviously, but also I influence policy and create a path for others with my background to do the same, to give places like Marion County effective flood prevention measures.
All right. Last but not least, we have our final presenter. Julia Cruz will be presenting Where Are the Baby Makos? Identifying a potential nursery area for short fin makos in Western North Atlantic. Their faculty advisor is Dr. Erin Burge.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Cruz and my thesis research seeks to evaluate whether a nursery area for short-fin mako sharks, Icerus oxyrhynchus, is present in the offshore waters of Long Island, New York. Currently, there is no confirmed nursery area for short-fin makos anywhere in the Western North Atlantic. It is important to understand where short fin mako sharks are in the ocean because they are apex predators, meaning that the species can help structure and protect a whole ecosystem from the loss of habitat and overpopulation of the prey species. Short fin mako sharks can also help regulate commercially important species of fish, which will then help the economy of the local fisheries in the area. My research is important because it can help close knowledge gaps of critical habitat usage for a vulnerable species that is currently undergoing overfishing in the western North Atlantic. Shark nursery areas were defined by criteria established by Kauppila et al. 2007. Those criteria are 1. Young sharks are more commonly encountered in the area than adults. 2. Young sharks remain in the area for months at a time. And 3. Young sharks use the area repeatedly across the years. I have deployed satellite tags on young short fin mako sharks from 0 to 2 years old to track their movement in the North Atlantic Ocean. The satellite tag will send me live data of the location of the tag shark whenever the shark surfaces. I have successfully deployed satellite tags on 7 young short fin mako sharks between the years of 2021 and 2024. Tag data shows that the young makos stay within the continental shelf waters of Long Island, New York through summer. During fall, when sea surface temperatures cool, the young makos start to move south and offshore, closer to the continental shelf break. One of the young tagged makos started to move away from the east coast of the United States and into the open Atlantic Ocean, where we lost contact with it. The data from my tagged makos supports criteria 2 and 3 for the identification of a nursery area. Understanding where the baby short fin mako sharks are in the western North Atlantic can help with the creation of science-based regulations that can help protect the local ecosystem as well as the economy. Given the role of short fin mako sharks as apex predators and their vulnerability to overfishing, along with a lack of knowledge of where location of critical habitat usage occurs, filling in these knowledge gaps is of increasing importance in order to address the concerns of the loss of ecological and economical function associated with short fin mako sharks. Thank you.
That concludes our presentations for the evening. I just want to give a round of applause to all of our presenters today. This was wonderful. Well done.